acid reflux is a really common symptom in the perimenopause, which was quite a surprise when I started looking into this. So we know that there's a number of foods that can trigger it or make it worse. So today I'm going to look at what causes acid reflux in the perimenopause, menopause, the problem foods, and what you can do to help yourself. So the main reason for it is that there seems to be a link between falling estrogen and the lack of production of stomach acid. Now, we tend to associate acid reflux. So if I mention it, if people mention it, you automatically think that it's high acid that's causing the problem. But low acid symptoms can cause exactly the same symptoms as high acid. And we know that there seems to be this link between falling estrogen and lack of production of stomach acid. So you end up getting all the symptoms that are identical to high acid ones. So that would be things like indigestion, the actual acid reflux. You can feel things coming back up the way. You may find that food is just sitting in your stomach and it's not shifting, and you feel really very, very uncomfortable. It could be that you just get lots of wind, lots of indigestion. And very often you find that foods that you used to have absolutely no trouble with at all are starting to cause the problems. So we're going to look at the foods that can cause these problems, and it's quite a big group. So it would be things like acidic foods and drinks. So these would be things like your citrus fruits, your orange, lemons, lime, grapefruit, and the juicy. So don't forget, if you have a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice every morning for breakfast, that could be one of your triggers. Also look at tomato-based foods. These can really cause a lot of indigestion. And tomatoes are in just about everything. They're in sauces, tomato ketchup, salsa, lots of sort of general dishes and soups where you would put tomatoes, tinned tomatoes, and also don't forget tomato juice itself. So again, if you're a fan of a little glass of tomato juice every now and again, that can be a big trigger. We're looking at fatty, greasy foods. So that would be most fast foods, fried foods, your high fat dairy. So that's things like butter, cream, cheese, whole milk, your fatty foods. And most of those are processed, remember. So that would be things like your bacon, your sausages, your beef burgers. And don't forget pastries. So the high fat baked goods would be things like your morning croissant, your mid-morning or mid-afternoon donut, or loads of different types of biscuits. We've got spicy foods. So these are your chili based foods, hot sauces, chili sauces, curries, anything with things like cayenne pepper or black pepper in them can be a problem here. Alcohol. Interestingly, with alcohol can weaken. So there's a valve at the top of the stomach which helps to keep your stomach contents in the stomach. But alcohol, if you drink enough of it, can loosen the strength of this valve, and that can make you more vulnerable to things like acid reflux. So if you're drinking alcohol regularly, that might be part of the problem. And also sort of a lot of alcohol consumption can sensitize the esophagus. So that's the tube from the throat down into the stomach, making it become more irritable if you do actually get gastric reflux. And sometimes you can feel, if you get gastric reflux, you can get a burning pain that feels like it's the top of the stomach. And very often that's just because the contents of the stomach have actually breached that particular valve. We have got things, unfortunately, like caffeine. So that's tea, coffee, even things like drinking chocolate can be a problem. And, you know, all those kind of energy drinks and other drinks whose names I will not mention. It can also be carbonated drinks. So again, your fizzy drinks, juices, even fizzy water. So what these do, if you drink a lot at once, you've got all those bubbles in the stomach. They are going to create pressure in the stomach. And if that valve at the top is a bit weak, then the pressure is going to release. You're going to get gastric reflux and probably a lot of wind and burping as well. And the other group of foods is things like your garlic and your onions, especially if you have raw onions in a salad. They can be really quite hard to digest. So how do you go about sorting this one? Easiest thing to do is to have a diary. So you list all the foods that you eat, and then when you get the symptoms, and with this particular class of symptoms, the symptoms are usually quite quick after you've eaten the food. So you may find that within 10-15 minutes you get discomfort, or you may find it's within a couple of hours. So this is a good one to do a diary. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, it can be something as healthy as your morning glass of orange juice that could actually be one of the triggers. Watch your portion size, because again, if the stomach is producing less acid and you have these big meals, the food in the stomach is just going to ferment. That's going to cause pressure and you're going to get the acid reflux. So have smaller portions, and maybe look at, if you do get really hungry, maybe have just a small snack in between meals to help with that. Remember to chew your food well. Your stomach doesn't have any teeth, so if you don't chew properly, and digestion starts in the mouth. What do? We're really busy. We eat on the run, so you're going chomp, chomp, swallow. You've got all these big lumps of unchewed food in your stomach, and it's no wonder the stomach ends up struggling a lot here. So take your time, chew your food really thoroughly, and this is one of the things you can do for yourself that can work extremely quickly at alleviating all these symptoms. Don't drink when you're eating, so just have a very small, if you need to, just a very small amount of water. The more you drink when you eat, the more you dilute your stomach acid, and the more likely you are to end up with acid reflux. Don't have a big meal at night, because again, if you're getting acid reflux, especially, if you're lying back in bed, there's more pressure on the valve on the top of the stomach. So don't put a lot of pressure on your stomach late in the evening. If you tend to eat late, then have your biggest meal of the day at lunchtime and just have a smaller meal in the evening. And again, that can really help nighttime acid reflux symptoms. You can take bitter herbs before you eat. Bitter herbs are great because they stimulate the correct amount of gastric juices that you need to digest your food. You can look at the herb century, which is a really lovely one that you can take, or you can go with it with the bitter leaves such as endive and fennel. Can be really, really helpful. Just a small portion of those before you have something to eat. They're part of the Mediterranean diet. If you actually look at the Mediterranean diet, normally the first course of a meal is a nice plate of bitter herbs, and of course they don't have as much indigestion and digestive problems. Your posture, and this is something we forget, me included. Your stomach needs plenty of room to move, to mix the stomach acid in with the food, to break it down correctly. If you are sitting in front of the TV with your food on your plate, you're sitting hunched, you're watching the TV, you're at your desk, you've squashed the stomach and it can't work properly, and you'll be far more likely to end up with gastric reflux. So it's this old age thing. I can remember my parents when I was little, sitting at a table, sit up, elbows off the table. And by doing that, you're giving your stomach plenty of room to move and work properly. The other thing you can look at is silicone gel, which is recommended for symptoms such as acid reflux. This can be very soothing. So I hope you found this one helpful. We have realised it's a very common problem. And sometimes if you're given antacids, they actually make the position worse purely because you've got the symptoms of low stomach acid rather than high stomach acid. If any of you have had this, what did you do to sort it? Any tips? Was there any particular food that you discovered was the main culprit? Please share. You know I love to read all your stories, and your simple tip may help someone else down the line as well. Have a lovely week, and I will see you soon.